Okay, welcome back to today's explainer. We're heading straight out into the ancient Egyptian desert to uncover, well, an absolutely incredible story about what happens when waiting just gets a little too hard. I'm literally so excited to share this action-packed adventure with you today. It's got some amazing highs, some really challenging lows, and honestly, some incredibly important lessons for all of us. We're looking at the famous story of the golden calf from the book of Exodus. So get ready for shimmering gold, blazing fires, and a pretty wild ride. So let's just dive right into this with a huge question. Think about this for a second. Why do you think people lost hope when Moses went away for 40 days? I mean, imagine being stranded in a vast desert. The guy who literally just led you out of Egypt goes up a massive mountain to talk to God, and days turn into weeks. The clock is just ticking by, right? And the people start looking around, scratching their heads, wondering where on earth did he go? Is he ever coming back to us? Well, the answer to that question is actually something we all deal with. You see, it is human nature to lose hope when we don't have faith. We believe more what the eyes can see, but faith believes more what the heart can see. The Israelites completely stopped looking with their hearts and just started demanding something right there, something they could easily see with their physical eyes. So here's a big takeaway right off the bat. Be careful of those who try to shake your faith. Now, let's break down exactly how this went from simple impatience to a massive, massive mistake, step by step. First up, they wait. And yeah, Moses takes a really long time. Next, the people get totally fed up. They gather around Aaron and they actually demand, "Make us gods to go ahead of us." They're complaining that they have no clue what happened to Moses. Third, Aaron, instead of stopping them, tells everyone to strip off their gold earrings. They gather up all the shiny jewelry, and finally, Aaron melts the whole shebang down in a blazing fire and molds it right into the shape of a golden calf. It gets crazier. Aaron actually builds an altar for this thing, and the people start shouting, "Israel, here is your God who brought you up from the land of Egypt." No way, right? They literally worship this brand new chunk of metal, threw a huge, wild feast, and just completely forgot about the real God who had literally just saved them. Early the next morning, they're presenting offerings, sitting down to eat and drink, and indulging in this wild, crazy party. They traded their invisible, all-powerful God for melted jewelry. Meanwhile, up on the mountain, there is this incredibly dramatic contrast happening between God's blazing anger and Moses desperately begging to save everyone. God sees exactly what's going down in the camp. He tells Moses, "You need to hurry down there because your people have become corrupt and stiff-necked." God is so incredibly angry, he actually says, "Leave me alone so my anger can blaze against them and I can just put an end to them." But Moses, he immediately steps in like a shield of cool water. He pleads for his people, begging God to turn away for his fierce anger. And Moses does something so heroic here. He reminds God of his ancient promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. He basically says, "Remember the stars?" Moses reminded God that he had promised to make their descendants as countless as the stars in the sky. He asks, "Why let the Egyptians say you brought them out to the desert just to destroy them?" And guess what? His powerful intercession actually worked. It really did. God changed his mind about the disaster he had planned for his people. So with the people spared from immediate destruction, Moses finally heads down the mountain. And he's carrying these two miraculous stone tablets, completely unaware of the absolute wild party waiting for him below. And guys, these weren't just everyday stones. The text tells us they were the actual work of God, inscribed on both the front and the back. And the writing was the handwriting of God himself. Now Joshua, who is walking down with Moses, hears all this noise and thinks it's a war. But Moses knew better. He knew it was the sound of people singing. But man, when Moses finally got close enough to the camp to actually see the dancing and that glowing golden calf, his own anger just blazed right up. He took some extreme, and I mean unforgettable steps to stop the madness immediately. First, he throws down those precious, miraculous tablets and shatters them right at the base of the mountain. Second, he grabs that calf and melts it in the fire. Third, he grinds it all the way down to fine powder. And fourth, he scatters that powder on the water and literally makes the people drink it. He completely destroyed their false idol. After that, Moses turns right to Aaron. He wants to know how this terrible sin even happened on his watch. And when Moses demands answers, Aaron offers what has to be the most ridiculous, weak excuse in history. He literally looks at Moses and says, "They gave the gold to me, I threw it in the fire, and out came this calf." I mean, seriously, Aaron was trying so hard to shift the blame away from himself, acting like it was just some big magic trick, instead of admitting, yeah, I actually molded the gold myself. Moses could see the camp was just completely out of control, mainly because of Aaron's poor leadership. So Moses knew he had to step up and take strict control right then and there. He stands at the entrance of the camp and shouts this mighty call, "Whoever is for Adonai, come to me." It was the ultimate moment of choosing sides. And right away, all the descendants of Levi rallied around him. They grabbed their swords, ready to stand up for God and finally bring some order back to this crazy desert camp.
And this brings us to some serious food for thought. The moral of Exodus 32 is this: impatience and the abandonment of moral restraint lead to destructive sin. It's a very heavy, serious moment in our story right here, because 3,000 people lost their lives that very day. Moses actually commanded the sons of Levi to go through the camp to carry out God's judgment. It just goes to show that abandoning moral restraint and giving in to destructive sin leads to very real and very tough outcomes.
Now, the very next day, Moses goes right back up to God to try and atone for this terrible sin. And get this, Moses even offered to be erased from God's book just to save the people. He said, if you won't forgive them, blot me out of your book. How amazing is that? But God's justice is perfect. God insisted that only those who actually sinned against him would face the final punishment. He told Moses to pack up and lead the people onward, but he did warn that a time for punishment would eventually come, and he did strike the people with a plague because of that golden calf.
Key morals and themes. What can we learn?
So, let's quickly recap our 5 key takeaways from all this. First, the danger of impatience. Losing faith during times of waiting or uncertainty often leads to really poor choices. Second, the seduction of idolatry. People are so prone to create idols, whether it's literal objects or money or whatever, to satisfy their own desires instead of submitting to God. Third, the consequence of shifting blame. Making excuses, like Aaron's totally weak story, only compounds the sin. Fourth, the power of intercession. Moses showed us that praying for others is basically a superpower that can appeal to God's mercy. And finally, actions have consequences. Forgiveness is real, but bad choices still carry natural consequences that we have to face. All right, if you loved diving into this amazing story and learning these powerful lessons with us today, we would absolutely love for you to be part of our learning family. Click the bell button, like, share, and subscribe. Keep learning, keep your faith strong, and honestly, what do you think would have happened if they just waited one more day? Think about that. I can't wait to see you all for our next colorful adventure.